the Brightest Guy in the World, by John Porter. Bill Brown, a big, middle-aged working man, entered the tavern, trudged to the bar, and sat on a stool. Harry Murphy, an old bartender, put a glass of beer in front of him. "Haven't seen you in a while, Bill," Harry said. "You doing okay?" "Coming along, Harry," Bill said. He grabbed the glass and guzzled the beer. "Coming along, huh?" Harry said. Bill shrugged. Harry refilled his glass and Bill grabbed it. "I'm not the brightest guy in the world," Bill said. "You're not?" Bill shook his head. "When I'm on a toilet, I'm good," he said. "Your stopped-up drains, your leaky faucets, your busted pipes." He nodded, then took a big swig of beer. "But with Jenny..." He shook his head, then looked at Harry. "Want to hear about her?" "If you want to talk about her." "I guess I do." Harry nodded. "Let me buy you a beer," he said. He refilled the glass. "That's what I said to Jenny a week ago," Bill said. "Right over there." He turned and looked at a table. "She was real pretty, and all alone. So I figured I'd get to know her." At the table, Jenny Jones, a middle-aged woman, sat alone with her head down. Bill walked toward her and stopped beside the table. "Let me buy you a beer," he said. "You don't wanna," she said. "Yeah, I do." She shook her head. "I'm going through some shit now," she said. "Can't talk to nobody about it." "You can talk to me and it won't bother me at all," Bill said. "I'm a plumber." She looked up at him. "I gotta warn you," she said. "Let me buy you a beer," he said. She smiled. "You're a nice guy." "A dumb guy," Bill said to Harry, then shrugged. "Well, I bought her a beer, and she didn't say much, but we got on okay." He sipped his beer. "And before she left, she gave me her number. Couple nights later, I called, and we got together at Sweeney's. And we got on okay again, real okay. This time she laughed. A lot." At a table in a greasy spoon, Bill sat with Jenny, who laughed a lot. "Tell me again what that rich bitch said to her husband," Jenny gasped. "Well," Bill began, "I was in the bathroom." "Working on a ball-cock assembly!" She raised her head and roared. "Yeah," Bill said, "and a ball-cock assembly!" "Yeah, that's what it's called." So tell me." "Well," he said, "she says you gotta put up with me." "If you want me to put out for you," she roared again. "Yeah," Bill said, then cleared his throat. "That's what she..." "God, it's hot in here." She fanned her face with a menu. "Let's take a walk." She smiled. "To your place." Bill sipped his beer in the tavern. "I wasn't expecting company," he said, "but you know me, Harry. I always got an extra beer or two." Harry nodded. A door opened and Bill and Jenny entered a dingy room. Bill went to a refrigerator, opened it, and reached in. Jenny looked at the clothes on the floor, the pizza box on a table, and the crumbs on a couch. "Let me buy you another beer," Bill said. Holding 2 beer cans, he turned and smiled at her. "This place is a pigsty!" she shouted. "Huh? You know who lives in a pigsty?" "Yeah," she shouted again. "You live in a pigsty." "Well, know why?" "No," he said. "'Cause you're a pig." She turned, left, and slammed the door. In the tavern, Bill shook his head. "I figured that was the end of it." He sipped his beer. "But the next night, I come home from the Milford remodel and find a note on my door. 'Bill, please let me try and make it up to you. Jenny.'" He sighed. "You know what I did, Harry?" "You let her try?" "How'd you know?" Harry shrugged. "Well," Bill said, "I called her and we got together in the park yesterday. This time, she didn't laugh at all." Bill and Jenny sat on a bench. He looked at her. She lowered her head. "Sorry, Bill," she said. "I don't get why you're..." "Me neither." "Tell me what you're going through and maybe I can." She cried, then leaned forward and grabbed her shoulders. "I can't," she sobbed. "Why not?" "I'm cold." He took off his coat and put it around her. "Now tell me what..." "I'm still cold." "For goodness sake, Jenny." "Maybe I can help." "Take me to your place." In the tavern, Bill looked at his glass. Funny thing, he said, but until she told me the place was a pigsty, it looked okay to me. He paused, then frowned. After she told me, well, I could see it needed some cleaning up. The door opened and Bill and Jenny entered the immaculate room. She looked at the floor, which had been swept, the table, which had been polished, and the couch, which had been vacuumed. So, he said, tell me what's going on. She looked at him. Wait a minute, he said. He picked up a dozen red roses and offered them to her. Now tell me. Her hands trembled. Jenny, Bill said. She pulled off the coat and threw it on the floor. You know what you are? She shouted. She fanned her face with her hands. You're a wimp, she shouted. Thought I was a pig, he said. You are, she shouted, and a wimp too. She grabbed the roses. And I'm crazy about you, she shouted. She turned, left, and slammed the door. In the tavern, Bill shook his head and finished his beer. Harry reached for the glass, and Bill raised his hand. I got the forester job tomorrow, he said, then sighed. Thanks for listening. Harry shrugged. I just don't get it, Bill said. I don't get why she's happy one minute, sad the next, and mad the next. He threw up his hands. And something else I don't get is why I keep thinking about her. He thumped his fists on the bar, then sighed. Like I say, Harry, I'm not the brightest guy in the world, but no dimmer than the rest of us, Harry said. Huh? Well, Harry said, not much dimmer. Anyway, Bill said, I keep on thinking about her. I don't know why. 'Cause you're a nice guy, Bill, Jenny said. Bill turned. Jenny walked toward him and stopped. And I want to talk to you, she said. I got nothing to say, he said. You don't have to say nothing, but will you listen? She touched his shoulder. He looked at her hand, then looked away. I want to thank you for the roses, she said, and leave me alone, and I want to tell you what I've been going through. He looked at her. See you, Bill, Harry said. Bill looked at Harry, who nodded. Bill stood and he and Jenny walked away. A few months ago I started feeling real wacky, she said. Today, 'cause of you, I went to a doctor. And he said that when a woman gets to be my age, they walked out of the tavern. Harry wiped the bar. Maybe I'll see the both of you together, he said to himself. He smiled. Hope so. The end.